Hello everybody, in this lesson I will discuss the influence of A and Q on the parabola. Now, familiar to us at this stage is the general formula for the quadratic function y is equal to ax squared, and by now you know this is the graph. So now we will take it one step further, and the general formula becomes y is equal to ax squared plus q. Now what happens here is A is still positive, so your graph will still be concave up or smiling, and then the plus q, q's value, now suddenly makes that the graph has translated up or down. So it's a vertical translation up or down. So when Q is plus, your graph shifts or translates upwards. And then when I give you y is ax squared minus q, and then q's value is negative, this means your graph will translate or shift downwards. And again, A is still positive, so your graph is still concave up. Example 1. Let's sketch the graph of f of x is equal to x squared minus 1. Now, just remember, this graph is in the form y is equal to ax squared plus q. So when we sketch the graph of a parabola, then there's steps for us. First of all, we will decide on the shape. Now the shape we get from A's sign, and A in this one is positive, therefore the shape is the smiley parabola or concave up. The next step is to find the x-intercept. Now there's a rule, x-intercept make y 0, just like we did on the straight line. And just keep in mind that there's different words that they sometimes use for an x-intercept. You also call them the zeros of your graph, or you can call an x-intercept a root of the graph. So back to the sum, x-intercept make y 0. There's our equation, f of x is x squared minus 1. Remember, f of x is the same as y, so in f of x's place we substitute 0 equals x squared minus 1. Now we find on the right hand side the difference of two squares, and remember you must be able to factorize. So when we factorize x squared minus 1, we end with x minus 1, x plus 1. And then the roots, the x-intercepts, the zeros are x is 1 or x is negative 1. And then as a coordinate, it's the point 1 and 0, or it's the point negative 1 and 0. Then step 3 is the y-intercept, and the rule y-intercept make x 0. And then there's our equation. In x's place we substitute 0, and then y is negative 1. And as a coordinate, that will be 0, negative 1. And then when our graph is in the form y is equal to ax squared plus q, the y-intercept is also the turning point. So then we can plot the coordinates of the x-intercept there at 1 and 0 and negative 1 and 0. The y-intercept is 0 and negative 1. We know the shape of the graph, therefore there's our graph. And remember, you have to add this is the y-axis, this is the x-axis, and the name of the graph. This one is f of x. Example 2. Sketch the graph of g of x is equal to x squared minus 4. Again, this graph is in the form y is ax squared plus q. So step 1, the shape. We look at the sign at A, and the sign there is a positive. So we know this is a smiley graph or concave up. Step 2, x-intercept, the rule make y 0. There's the equation. In y's place we substitute 0. And on the right hand side we find x squared minus 4, which is the difference of two squares. And when we factorize that one, we end with x minus 2, x plus 2. And the answer, x is 2 or x is negative 2. And as a coordinate, that one will be 2 and 0, and the other one negative 2 and 0. Step 3, the y-intercept and the rule make x 0. There's the equation. We make x 0 and we end with y is equal to negative 4. And then that one as a coordinate is the point 0, negative 4. And remember, the y-intercept is also the turning point. There's your axis, the point, the x-intercept 2 and 0, negative 2 and 0, and then the y-intercept 0, negative 4. We know the shape of the graph is smiley or concave up, therefore there's our graph. And then remember, add, this is the y-axis, this is the x-axis, and the name of this thing, g of x. Example 3. Sketch the graph of h of x is equal to minus 3x squared plus 3. Again, the shape. We find the shape here at y is ax squared plus q, and a is negative, therefore the graph is concave down or crying. Step 2, the x-intercept. X-intercept make y 0. There's the equation. In h of x's place we substitute 0. Now to factorize this one, we will take out negative 3 as a common factor, and we're left with x squared minus 1. And then that's the difference of two squares, x minus 1, x plus 1. Then we will divide away the negative 3, both sides, and we are left with x is equal to 1 or x is equal to negative 1. So therefore the coordinates of the x-intercepts are 1 and 0 and negative 1 and 0. Step 3, y-intercept, make x 0. There's the equation. When we make x 0, we end with y is equal to 3. And then the coordinate there is the point 0 and plus 3. And then the y-intercept is also the turning point. So there's our axis. The first coordinate of the x-intercept is 1 and 0. The other one, negative 1 and 0. The y-intercept is the point 0, 3. We know the graph is concave down, therefore there's our graph. And then this is the y-axis, this is the x-axis, and the graph, the name is there. Let's just add it there, h of x. And remember, I can also say that this graph has a maximum turning point of 3. Example 4. Sketch the graph of k of x is equal to negative x squared minus 5. Therefore, y is ax squared plus q. That's the form. Step 1, the shape. We find it at the sign of a. A is negative, therefore our graph is concave down or crying. Step 2, x-intercept, make y 0. There's the equation. K of x is y, we make it 0, we end with 0 equals minus x squared minus 5. Now on this one, I will let the x squared walk across and it becomes positive x squared is equal to negative 5. And then to get rid of the square, I will take the square root both sides. And then when I take the square root on the right hand side, I add plus or minus. And can you see what's happening now? Suddenly there's a minus under the root, and that means there's no real roots, because that you cannot get a negative under a square root. So therefore, this graph does not have any x-intercepts. Step 3, y-intercept make x 0. There's your equation. In x's place, we substitute 0 and we find y is equal to negative 5. And then the coordinate there is the point 0 and negative 5, which is also the turning point. So this graph will look like that. There's no x-intercept, but there's one y-intercept, the point 0, negative 5, and that point is also the turning point. And we know the graph, the shape of the graph was concave down. And there's your graph. And then this is the y-axis, this is the x-axis with no x-intercepts, and there's the point, the turning point, 0, negative 5, and the name of the graph is k of x. And this one, you can also say, has a maximum turning point at minus 5. In the next video, I will teach you how to find the equation of a parabola. Click on the video in the left-hand corner to take you straight to the next lesson.